Hi there. Retool released AI agents last week, and it's incredible. If you haven't seen it, I did a video last week on this, and go take a look. Today, we're going to analyze tools. Everything about agents circles around these tools, which are the things that are going to make it work for you and do all this amazing stuff. We're going to take a deep dive into what these tools are, how APIs are actually structuring them so you can understand them and the implications they may have, and some of the limitations that the Retool AI agents currently have. Let's dive in. All right, as we saw, the cool thing about agents are all of these tools that you can create. This is one of the templates that Retool provides: an email, check ticket status, and you can add all sorts of tools that you can connect, anything, any data that you can connect. So we're gonna take a look at what is it agents do when they invoke or call a tool. All right, to do that, I replicated what the AI agent looks like in a Retool app so we can look under the hood. This is an agent that analyzes an invoice and search all of the entries from the invoice and then searches in the database. The goal is to provide an accounting code that needs to be assigned for this. The context is an oil company, so they have a big chart of accounts. So this is the invoice, and I click on analyze. And then I will move forward with this because it loads. Usually it takes around 30 seconds to analyze the invoice. This is also using OpenAI's vision for PDF. So it will extract it. It outputs a structured object with all of the elements that then the agent will start using to try and identify vendors, wells, all of the structures and this well structure, paths, and so on. So there you go. So it analyzed the invoice. So it passes that invoice data to the agent. And you can now see that the agent right away went there and it said, let me search for these entities. And you can see the results here. I added a table. So for the first, it didn't find anything. For the second, it finds several things in the database. For the third, it finds a lot. And then for the vendor, it finds one. And then for the coding, it kind of went all in. And then it starts thinking. And it says, I'm going to search for something else. And this is some reflections that it did. And then it goes forward and searches for this approval for expense. And after that, I think it's now ready to do and provide a recommendation. Yes, this is a recommendation that we would give for these. This is the accounting code that went based on this and this and this, and a strong level of confidence. All right. So we have 4 tools. It can search for entity. It can search for a vendor. It can search for a face, and then for an approval for expense, which is one here. There's one here. These are the tools. There are 4 tools. So now let's see what is, in technical terms, these 4 tools are simply calls to a database. This is what the tool that I'm giving. So you can see I have these 4 tools. They have parameters. This is the information that we're passing into the tool. So this is entity, this is the phase for this accounting codes, the vendor, we're going to find the vendor, and the approval for expense and the well name. These are the parameters. And in all of this, you can see that we're just passing these parameters in here, and it will just search through it. It's quite simple, nothing really complex, also not very accurate, but you can see the gist of it. Now, these are the tools, but now we need to explain to the LLM that we have these tools. The cool thing about Retool is a tool can be just one of this, but it can be a whole workflow. And it can be any resource that you already have set up within Retool. So that's something that I really like, that you don't really have to build a workflow in code, but you have all the workflows with all of these blocks that you can actually set as a workflow, as a tool, and pass it. Now, see how we define the tools for the LLM. Now, so far I've tested OpenAI's and Anthropic's. OpenAI, I have to say, I struggled a lot. I got a lot of errors and I gave up. And Anthropic, after half an hour, I was doing all of this that I was showing you. So this is how you define a tool. So it usually has a name, the description, and then the input. So these are all of the parameters that you're passing. So it can be an object with within it a string or different kind of things. So you can make it as long as you want it. But these are the parameters. And then whenever the LLM decides to invoke one of these tools, it will send a message, although you will not see it, like this. This is that pushes in the response, in the API response. It will make a tool use and which tool and which parameter is what's going to pass. So if I go back to my app, you can see that I have this variable with agent tools. And here's where I've defined the tools with that structure. The name, what this is for, the schema, if it's required or not, the name, the description. So I have this for tools. Within my posts, when I post to the API, I will include those. So I have this JavaScript query that is actually doing the loop on through it. And you can see that I'm actually using the tools and I'm passing that within the tools parameter in the API trigger. So you pass the model, the system message, which is really cool that I like. Anthropic has a separate parameter for system rather than being the first message like in ChatGPT, or at least that's what I understood. And tokens and the messages. We won't go into this, but this is the tools that I'm passing. So it knows that it can make use of this tool. Now, there's a property which is called pool choice. This is something that it's still missing in Retool AI agents, which you can decide auto, which means the agent will decide which tool to use, or responding without calling a tool, or you say any and you specify which tools, which tells the LLM that it has to use a tool from which tools it can select, or you're actually enforcing which tool it should use. So send email, for example. So you could actually, for different kind of calls, then figure out and then force a tool. This is something that is still not, I still haven't seen it in Retool. When you're doing your own code, you can do it. You can decide if it's free, if it needs to use a tool, and you can select any of this, or if it's forcing the. Okay, so now let's take a look step by step. What did the API response did? So the first message that I sent was I have this invoice data and I pass all of the invoice information. That's great. And then the next messages that came through were this tool use, type tool use, right? So we decided to use this tool, and which parameters it's passing. So the Hutton S19, another one, and it goes on and goes on. And then the JavaScript then calls the functions, passing those parameters, and we pass a new message, which is tool result with the content and the ID, which needs to match with the tool call, right? So I'll see this set, this is the one, right? So for each function call, then we get the results from that tool and pass it to the message. So you can see this is another message, and here all the information that I gathered. And there another message here, it's a tool result and the results for that message, and so on. And then you can see here, for example, this is another message, and this is a text. So this is a search quality reflections that is passing and is thinking, and it's making his whole reflection. And afterwards, it decides to go and invoke another tool. So you will see this tool, which is find approval for expense, which return no results, right? This is a tool results. So after that, it used all of the tools that it had at its disposal. It's ready to provide a message, which is this final message, results, based on the comprehensive research, blah, 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 blah. So you can see how for each tool, there is one message, which is the LLM requesting that, and then the system invoking that call, that tool, with the parameter that it was called. And that is, then you get the results and pass it, and then you can then have the LLM analyze. Okay, that was really fast, a little bit improvised. When I was building this, I found it really helpful. Another thing that is important to know is right now, I think retool agents are not passing all. So from one message to the other, those tool results are not being passed. And that's important because it's a way to, I think, optimize the window context. But then you will see and notice that the agent is invoking the same tools with the same parameters because it doesn't have access to the previous response. So it will call it again. I know they may be working on that, but this is something to be aware of. Every time you have all of that context with all of your results for every new message that you send to the LLM, it will send all of those tool results. So your context window is reducing, especially if your results are big. You're getting a lot of data from your database or whatever. So you need to be aware of that. It's impacting your window context. Good. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if it was helpful or if I made a mess of it. Just let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers.